Hello, and welcome back to the Over and Back Classic NBA podcast. I am Jason, and with me as usual is Rich. Hello, Rich.
Well, how's it going?
Oh, it's going really well. You know, it's another exciting NBA season is on the way, and I think really the big story that's going in here is the Golden State Warriors are going after the NBA's first three since
Wait. I don't want to owe Pat Riley.
Wait.
Pat Riley listens to the show for sure. I don't want to owe him money, so we got to figure out a different way to do this.
Wait, what's the problem?
The three consecutive championships thing.
Yeah,
there's an easy way to say it, and I know that's the way you were going to say it. We probably need to find a different way though, just because Pat told our good friend Pat Riley, which we've talked a lot of shit about Pat Riley. So like he might let it go for some podcasts, but I don't think he's gonna let it go for us. So yeah, we're gonna have to figure out a different way because I think we owe him. I think you owe him like $600 every single time you mentioned the three consecutive championships repeating thing.
So when you say three and it rhymes with repeat, you can't do that.
You might be able to, but I don't know if I have expressed written consent from Pat Riley. I sent in for it. I have not checked my mailbox quite yet, and we already started recording. So I could go away and check my mailbox. It is Sunday though, so I'm guessing it didn't come, but you never know. So
it's true.
He may have overnighted it or whatnot, just to make sure that we had clearance before we started recording. So
maybe you should explain the history of that because for the listeners who don't know, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do it. I'll pay him a few times
because maybe it's possible that they have actually, they've actually said that word and they didn't know that they can't say that word, and maybe they have. Right. They might have Pat Riley coming to their door and knocking on the door and say, "Hey, give me money," because Pat's known for that.
They might get invoice. Yeah, they might get invoice for mentioning it in a conversation with friends or whatnot.
I mean,
if
if you've said that word and you get the faint whiff of hair oil, you might it might be Pat.
Alonzo Mourning shows up at your door with a briefcase.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
No.
Yeah, that's not good.
So.
Yeah, not so. If Juwan Howard comes out, and starts, Bob McAdoo comes over. That's probably why those guys are with the Heat organization, because they're collecting on the 3 in a row fees. Yeah,
exactly. All right, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna say it one time, so that we'll have to we'll cobble together. We'll do like a GoFundMe or whatever to pay for it. But the dastardly word Three-Pea.
Oh no!
I'm sorry. Okay, that's $600 or whatever. Sorry.
Now there's another thing I want to say. I have heard that if you say that word 3 times, that Pat Riley will come and haunt your dreams. So if we're gonna say it, we cannot say it more than 3 times because.
Okay, that's fine. So that's one.
I don't want. Okay, that's one. All right, fair enough.
That's one. If we mistakenly say it later, we can count it, but we just have to be a little bit careful. So this is my one intentional time saying it.
Okay.
But now the rest of the times I'll try not to, but there's just that. But the term originated with the Los Angeles Lakers during their unsuccessful campaign, which is the most ironic and best part of this is all. Their unsuccessful campaign for a third consecutive championship during the 1988-89 season. They were, of course, swept by the Pistons in the 89 finals, so they did not do it. The term is a registered trademark by Pat Riley, although it was coined by LA player Byron Scott, and that's definitely not something for Pat Riley to do, is take other success and use it for himself. But immediately after their championship defense against the Pistons in the 88 NBA Finals, Byron Scott said we were all using it at training camp before the season, and then Pat Riley, of course, took it. In 1989, Riles and Company, which apparently is the name of his company, Riles and Company, successfully registered the trademark under U.S. registration number 1552980. The Lakers did not win a third consecutive championship in 1989, but the Chicago Bulls did in 1993, and Riles and Company collected royalties from sports apparel makers who licensed the phrase for use on merchandise commemorating that accomplishment.
So wait, two things. I'm sorry, Rich.
Go ahead.
First of all, I don't think Phil Jackson and Riley, they're not social acquaintances. They don't hang out or anything.
Yeah, they don't exchange Christmas cards.
But I do wonder if if they did, how much guff that Phil Jackson would give to Riley, for the fact that he trademarked this and didn't actually use it, and then Phil actually used it. Secondly, this also reminds me of during the early '90s when there was the big rap feud between Eazy-E and Dr. Dre. How Dr. Dre would say all these things about Eazy on his records, but the fact that Easy would make money off of the record because he owed some money to Easy with the
right, yeah, he was still a part of the label. Yeah, it was just like many songs were like bashing Easy, but Easy would cash those checks and was like, whatever, dude, I don't care.
Yes.
Like talk about me on Dre Day, I don't give a shit because I'm cashing this bad boy in.
Right, there you go. So
it is pretty good, yeah. And Phil owes when we talk about the history of these 3 consecutive championships, like old Phil, he owes Phil Riles and company quite a lot of money there because Phil kept doing it. So
he did, yes.
Other teams have tried to circumvent the term as well. When Southern California, USC, was going for at least a share of 3 straight national championships in football, its marketing department used Three-Peats.
Wait.
But, no.
Wait, okay.
No.
Three-Peats,
because Pete Carroll was their coach. So they used Three-Peats, like Pete Carroll. So a court ruled that it infringed on Riles' trademark, so that unfortunately did not work for old USC. The Bulls, on their way to a 3 consecutive championships in 1993, simply put on billboards with 3 rows of basketballs in them. So they had billboards. I remember these driving down Chicago as well, symbolizing the 4 victories needed to get to the finals. So each ball had a letter of the word Pete on it. At the time, the Bulls had won 3 games of the NBA Finals, so the billboard read, just to kind of give you an idea. So the first line of the billboard read P-E-A-T, so 4 games, obviously. The second read P-E-A-T. This is lame as hell, by the way. Just pay Riles. You know what I mean? At this point, it's so dumb. And then the last one read P-E-A, and then, of course, until they won the final game, then somebody would put a T up there, and then they would have 3 consecutive. So they'd have a line of 3 Petes. So you know what I mean? It's not they didn't win, it wasn't 3-V, but it was a line of 3 Petes. So that's how we can kind of get away from this. But
I think we're okay, but we are treading on some thin ice.
I'm towing the line, baby. The Sharks are chomping at me. But on the bright side, though, I think the best part of this entire thing is that Riley's Heat failed to get 3 consecutive championships in 2014 as well, which leads us to another a list here of historical failed 3 consecutive championships. So I love that Riley coined the term, trademarked the term, didn't coin the term, but trademarked the term, didn't do it with the Lakers, and then didn't do it with the Heat as well.
It is good. Yes.
It's quite it's perfect, actually. It's not even ironic. It's just fucking perfect that Riley would be in that situation.
Yes, I do enjoy the fact that he did not the fact that he did not succeed. I always enjoy reveling in Pat Riley's failures, so that's absolutely that's nice for us. Yes. So there have been 5 teams in history that have been able to accomplish the 3 championships in a row. Success. So they are, before we get into the failures, we should get into the successes. Of course. The first are the Minneapolis Lakers from 52 to 54. The Boston Celtics from 59 to 66. Of course, that's 8 in a row. You
just pick whatever one.
Yeah, you
pick them. Whatever.
Pick any 3 out of those. They did it twice, almost 3 times actually. The Chicago Bulls from 91 to 93. The Chicago Bulls again from 96 to 98, and then the Los Angeles Lakers from 2000 to 2002. So. But this is not about their success. This is about failure. So
no, this is all about failure on this show.
Yes.
It's all about poking fun at the guys who couldn't do it. But yeah, we'll start here with the Minneapolis Lakers, 1951. We're including these Lakers under protest because they did win 3 in a row with the 1948 NBL title, but official NBA history, as we mentioned many times on the show, does not include that accomplishment because the NBA is petty and weird. So they merely won the 1949 BAA title, the 1950 NBA title, and then the 1952 and 54 NBA titles, as mentioned above.
Rich, one thing. I would have to say that the NBA was petty and weird, and now they're merely indifferent. So,
okay, all right. I'll allow that. Yeah, I guess now they're just like, I don't think like Adam Silver's like, no, we're not counting the NBL. I'm sure he doesn't care.
No,
he just doesn't care. Yeah, so it's a little bit different there. So yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, the pettiness is gone, and now just the ignorance is there, which is fine. You're like, whatever. I get it.
Sure.
But so we're gonna kind of the format we're gonna look at here. We're gonna look at the team, the background, any roster changes, and then the results, obviously, of what happened, and then maybe the reasons why things didn't quite go their way for that third year to get that final of the 3. But roster changes to the Lakers, not much. They had their key cogs, George Mikan, Vern Mickelson, Jim Pollard, Slater Martin. They were all there. They did lose veterans Hearn Schaefer and Don Swede Carlson. That may have been one of the issues, but probably not enough. The result, they lost to the Rochester Royals 3-1 in the Western Division Finals. And this was one bit of glory for these Royals against the Lakers because Minneapolis had beaten the Royals for the 1948 NBL title. and in 1949 and 1950 in the playoffs, and would later beat them in 52 and 54. So the Royals did not get a whole lot over on the Lakers, but this one time they were able to do it to stop the 3 in a row. The Royals had to satisfy themselves with merely the 1946 NBL and 1951 NBA titles, but they likely could have won a lot more if George Mikan never existed, but George Mikan unfortunately existed, so the Lakers were good. So
yeah, and also Mikan's the Chicago American Gears in 1947 also beat the Royals for the title, so he was the bane of their existence even outside of the Lakers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they just couldn't get away from this guy, unfortunately. So
yes, and really the reason for this is Mikan broke his leg before the 1951 Western Division Finals, and this was, of course, a series in which they were playing the Royals. So Mikan later recalled that his leg was taped with the plate and that he was barely able to move, although he still did average 23.8 points per game in this series. The Royals had a much more balanced attack. Arnie Rison, their big man, led the team with 18.3 points per game, but 4 other Royals averaged in double figures for the season. They did, in fact, go on to win the NBA championship against the Knicks, although they almost blew a 3-0 lead in doing so, winning the series in 7 games. Luckily, blowing a 3-0 lead is not trademark. We don't think so. No one's going to be asking for any money based on our description of that. And also, the Royals and Kings franchise has not won a championship or even been to the finals since this happened. So I don't know if there's some sort of curse going on here with, the curse of Mikan breaking his leg. That's the reason you won your championship. But I don't know. We'll have to dig into that one. Let's see if that fits anywhere in the cursed legends.
Yeah, absolutely. 1970 Boston Celtics, our next failed 3 in a row here. Roster changes. These are pretty big. 11-time champion Bill Russell retired, and 10-time champion Sam Jones also retired. So yeah, that's going to cause some issues there. Major additions were rookies JoJo White and journeyman center, or rookie JoJo White and journeyman center Hank Finkel, who was a bit of a punchline in Celtics history. And of course, Coach Tommy Heinsohn came in as well. He replaced the retiring Bill Russell. The result, the Celtics finished 36 and 46, missed the playoffs for the first time since 1950. It's 1970, by the way. First time since 1950. Obviously losing the greatest winner in NBA history and replacing him with Hank Finkel, it's probably going to hurt, and it did. Celtics had expected Russell to remain with the team one more year, and a surprise retirement came after the draft, in which they likely would have chosen a center. And there was some issue as well that you had mentioned in these notes here that Sports Illustrated talks about. Or he did it. He retired in a Sports Illustrated announcement, and he did it for money. They said because he announced it, the magazine announced that we had the scoop on this Bill Russell retirement rather than telling the Celtics and Auerbach personally. So always a little bit of resentment there in terms of stuff. But yeah, it kind of came out of surprise, came out of left field that he retired when he did. Top remaining players on the roster were John Havlicek, Satch Sanders, Don Nelson, Larry Siegfried, Bailey Howell, and M. Bryant. So they still had some pretty guys. Those guys were all between 29 and 33. So kind of still in their primes, but some of the guys were a little bit older. Of course, yeah, Havlicek, would end up having some better years coming up in the future, but I don't know, it just didn't quite. Yeah, they weren't the powerhouse they were before. I mean, they definitely lost a lot of talent there with Jones and Russell, and White and Don Chaney were in relatively limited roles, and they wouldn't really emerge until the next season, and that's when rookie Dave Collins would join the team, and then of course lead them to a 68 win season in 1973, and then titles in 74 and 76. So they wouldn't be down for long, but they were down here, and unfortunately could not get another championship, but it's fine. They probably could have shared a few, so it's okay. Yeah, they should have shared.
It's okay. Yes. Next, we go to the 1989 Lakers, where, and this is, of course, as we talked about, where the origins of the term we're not going to say, began. And in terms of roster changes, not a whole lot. Kurt Rambis departed for the Charlotte Hornets, where he would score a career-high 11.1 points per game, because somebody has to score points. So, and then they had their major assignee was Orlando Woolrich, who had battled addiction issues over the previous handful of seasons. Was a good and talented player when he was not dealing with that, but unfortunately he ended up contributing okay during the season, though. Mm-hmm. He ended up being a good, he was basically the 8th man of the team, so he didn't play a whole lot, but he averaged 20 minutes per game and was relatively effective in the role that he had. I think this was kind of one year where he was able to do that, and then he ended up leaving the team soon afterward.
Woolrich is a player that kind of gets lost to time a lot of it. I mean, because obviously the addiction issues happen, and also was a good player for the Chicago Bulls, and then they drafted a guy named Michael Jordan, and then they didn't really need Orlando Woolridge anymore. So he kind of gets lost in that because the buzzsaw of Michael Jordan kind of came through and sent him away. But no, he was a solid contributor for a lot of years, and then obviously was good on this team as well in his later days as well. So yeah, he's a guy that I think probably doesn't get the right amount of credit, and of course the addiction issues definitely play a huge issue with that as well.
Yes, absolutely. The result was that they were swept in the NBA Finals by the Detroit Pistons. This was a year after having defeated them in 7 games for their back-to-back championships. And really, I think the big problem, as I think we've talked about before, they traded Mike Smrek before the season began, and obviously,
right? Come on,
you have Smrek.
You're not going to win a title when you trade Mike Smrek.
No,
what are you doing?
It's
Riley.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Well, I think honestly, that's probably Jerry West's fault right there.
That's true.
Yeah, that's really not. We can't blame that as much as we would like to. I don't think we can blame that one directly
all
on.
Fine.
Yeah. And obviously, the contributions, the 8.8 minutes per game that they gotten from Mike Smrek, he was the guy who really led them to the 88 championship. He was really the straw that stirred the drink, so to speak.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, when you think of Showtime, you think of Mike Smrek. So it's like,
he's the first. He's the first.
He's synonymous.
Yeah.
With Showtime.
Kareem second, Magic Johnson third. Yeah, Mike Smrek definitely number 1. So, yes. So, and it's weird because the 88 team kind of struggled into the playoffs because they won their final 3 series all in 7 games. But the 89 team just totally marched through the first round, the first 3 rounds rather. They swept all the way through, and the Lakers going into the series were seen as probably the favorites over the Pistons, who had a tougher time in the playoffs in this rematch. Yeah, Pat Riley because they had extra time while they were waiting for the Pistons to complete their series. So Pat Riley had a extremely grueling, basically like a mini camp of putting the Lakers through the paces and having lots of extra running sessions and extra physical conditioning things and all time. And Lakers getting a little bit long on the tooth during this point, and Byron Scott was hurt during that session and missed this entire series. Magic Johnson was injured in Game 2 and barely played for the rest of the series, and the Lakers were unable to overcome that despite having one last game of glory from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Game 3. And ended up, of course, being swept. Despite the games in the series being relatively close, they were a one-sided series overall.
Absolutely, and we've if you want some more detail about this series, we did a show I think 2 years ago or maybe last year, forget when, 2 years ago, because it was when the Warriors were 11-1 in the playoffs, or when we're looking to go undefeated throughout the entire. No, it was last year, right? Yeah, it was last year when they were looking to go undefeated throughout the entire playoffs. We talked about other teams that were undefeated going up into the finals or whatever, and this week went into great detail about this infamous practice and these practice sessions that got the Lakers all hurt and tired and dropped down. But keep in mind they swept in the NBA Finals. Swept is going to be a theme for the next few years and next few teams we talk about here. Swept. Keep that in mind as we talk about these. 1991 Detroit Pistons. Some minor changes to this team. For the most part, they remained stable. They signed Tree Rollins, Gerald Henderson, and some other vets, but they were hardly X factors. Like pretty much they ran it back exactly what they had before. The result, though, they were swept in the Eastern Conference Finals by the Chicago Bulls. Up and down team throughout the year. They won 50 games, but it was obviously the worst of their teams, and it felt like the dynasty was kind of shrinking a little bit. Their power had seemed to kind of go away. They were the team that was so everybody feared them, and they were just rough and tumble, and the Detroit Bad Boys. It just seemed to kind of be done by this time. It felt like nobody really feared them anymore. Obviously, Michael Jordan emerging and finally being able to beat them definitely put a damper on all that as well. But yeah, they were up and down. They posted a 9-game win streak in November, and they finished the first month of the season with a 13-2 record. So it looked like things were going pretty well. Then they would lose 6 of the next 7 games in early December. Midway through the season, they'd win 11 games. So they were on a roller coaster. Like they'd get through these streaks and they'd lose a lot, and they'd win and they lose and they lose, and it didn't really quite work. Isaiah Thomas, he played just 48 games this season due to a wrist injury. And overall, though, they were fine. The Bulls just were a lot better, and the Bulls were, of course, going to go and bust all their way into the NBA Finals and win a title. They were just better, and they were ready to assume their spot at the top of the league. Jordan scored 29.8 points per game in the series against Detroit. Pippen added 22, and pretty much the Bulls were better in every single statistical category. category. If you look at them, assists, rebounds, field goal percentage, 3-point, everything. They were just better in everything than the Pistons, and it wasn't even close. Famously, towards the end of the loss in Game 4 to the Bulls, most of the Pistons players walked off the court towards the locker room without congratulating their opponents or shaking hands, concocted famously by Isaiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer in response to comments made by Michael Jordan about the Pistons' physical play being bad for basketball. He said, and this is a quote from Isaiah Thomas, or Dennis Rodman rather, which is kind of funny given where Dennis Rodman would be in a few years. He says, "I'm not giving the Bulls any credit. All they did was complain the whole time. You're bad for basketball. You shouldn't even be here. Michael Jordan's the top star in the NBA. Why doesn't he buy the team? He has all the money. This team's worth about $200 million. Why doesn't he buy it and change the organization if he's that good? They still haven't proved anything. They've got to win about 5 or 6 championships before they're a great team, but they could just go home now and rest in peace because the world is safe again. Life without the Pistons is safe." So Dennis obviously taking it pretty well and challenging Michael Jordan to win 5 or 6 championships, and they did. So I guess Dennis, and he played a part in those. So it's funny how, things came.
It's funny how things, yes. Well, it's funny how many of the bad boys ended up playing, with Michael Jordan toward the end of their career.
Blue Edwards. Yeah. Blue Edwards would show up at one point. Rodman would be there.
James Edwards, right?
James Edwards.
John Sally. Wasn't there somebody else too? I feel like there was one other. Maybe not.
I feel like there's another one. Yeah.
Ed Rodman. I guess those were the 3. So never mind. So yes. Definitely this Pistons team getting a little bit long in the tooth. I mean, you look at their top 7 players. The only guy who's younger than 29 is Joe Dumars, and Isaiah and Rodman are both 29. Lambier's 33, Vinnie Johnson's 34, James Edwards 35, and Mark Aguirre's 31. So yeah, I mean, these guys were just they were it's as we're going to see here. It gets a lot harder to keep winning titles over and over again. That's why the 3 in a row has only happened relatively small amount of times, because it becomes a grind. It becomes hard. It's tough. These guys get older, and deep playoff runs take a lot of miles on it. It's mentally tougher. All that stuff.
The other problem too, and we'll discuss it with a lot of these guys, because there's really you don't get big roster changes either, because you're not you don't want to be the team that trades away. Like, maybe the Pistons should have traded Bill Laimbeer for somebody. You know what I mean? But no, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that as you're approaching your third. You're not going to go and trade one of the peak guys and try to rejigger the thing. And we'll talk about the Heat later with the third Heat team. Maybe they should have went out and acquired somebody else, but they stuck with the same big 3 that they had, because you're not going to change anything. You'd be a pariah if you were we traded Charles Barkley, we traded Hakeem Olajuwon for the next team we're going to talk about. You can't do that. You can't. So a lot of these we talk about, they're just going to run the same team back, and there's a good chance that to get to that point where you won 3 in a row, you had to be together for quite a few years. You had to build up a little bit of stamina, and you're not in that third time going to go and trade somebody, or try to redo the entire roster or bring somebody new in or whatever. You mostly just run it back, and that becomes an issue a lot of times. You need to always kind of be on your toes and ready to sort of get some new life into the team. And there's a reason why you don't do it. And I get why you don't do it. You try to, just bring the same team back, but, didn't quite work there. But we'll talk about the 1996 Houston Rockets right now. The biggest change in the offseason were those trash-ass uniforms they went to. We've talked about them many times before, and they are the worst uniforms in the history of the league. Rockets got a full rebrand, new colors, new uniforms, and a new logo, which is actually unveiled aboard a spaceship, making it even more lame. A fan contest with over 5,000 entries. The team went with the idea of Missouri City artist Thomas Nash of a rocket orbiting a basketball, which was then reworked by Houston designer Chris Hill. As you could say, that's kind of weird. And Nash would later sue the Rockets for breach of contract, given they were using his idea despite not paying him the contest prize. That sucks. That's a good idea. Thank you, sir. We're going to have this guy kind of slightly redo it and then just take it. Don't have a contest if you're just going to screw the guy over. Jeez. So those things were doomed from the start. But, the NBA suggested that the identity should follow a cartoon-inspired imagery that other teams had adopted during the 1990s, leading to a rocket painted with a shark mouth nose art orbiting a basketball, and they absolutely fucking sucked. So we did an episode, one of our early episodes, about 1999 being the worst season in Jersey history, and I think we named these. I don't know if did we name these the number 1 or the number 2? I think those Pistons abortions may have been number 1.
I think you and I may have differed on that at the time, but it's really it's really a toss-up in my mind. So.
They're all so bad, and they're like a lot of times people now teams will bring back these 90s uniforms and people are like, oh, I like that, or that that's cool, it's retro. No, I don't think anybody wants to see these ever again. I've never met anybody that likes I like how the pinstripes just stop midway through. I like how they're weird colors. I like how the orbiting it's all bad. It's all terrible.
I think I've seen John Wilms defend them, but beyond that,
I know where he lives, so I'm gonna go find him. All right, I'm glad you said that. Now I can I can look at him very differently the next time I see him.
All right, that seems fair. Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah. No, this is. I think if you're a certain age, it's like Space Jam. You have some fondness for just this era in general in terms of the look and stuff. But yeah, if you're not from,
but you're an idiot. But if you like Space Jam, you're just an idiot and you're wrong. So
I'm not going to be that harsh, Rich. But you're the right age for that. So I feel like
I should be. I'm the target audience, and I think these stink. I hated them in the day. Yeah. I hated them even then. I was just like, these are really weird. And the problem too is like you win 2 titles with the one, and then you have the third. You come back with these things, and that's like, they deserve to lose. But that was, the NBA. When people are like, oh, why did Houston do it? We talked about it again during, I believe, that episode. Is that the Rockets were like told, many years ago that we wanted to rebrand every team needed kind of a slight rebrand or whatever, unless you were a legacy franchise like the Celtics or the Lakers or something like that. So every team had to kind of feel it, and even those teams had some slight changes as well. So the NBA suggested they do this many years ago. They had the plan ready to go before they knew they were going to win back-to-back titles or whatever. It just so happened, and they were like, crap, I guess we have to. Obviously, it would have made sense to kind of have the same uniforms, but in some ways it makes sense too, as while you're at your peak popularity, reveal these new uniforms. They're very 90s, they're very all this sort of stuff, and you read anything about them, like at the time everybody thought they were kind of cool and everybody thought they kind of worked, but they are definitely of their era of 1996. But the results of the 1996 Houston Rockets, as we said in the theme, they were swept by the Seattle Supersonics in the Western Conference semifinals. The Rockets got off to a fast start this year. They won 10 of their first 11 games, but they were a very old team, and it began to show. Offense fell from 7th best in the league to 12th, while defense slipped from 12th to 14th. So it was just little slips here and there, but mostly injuries would be an issue all year. Clyde Drexler, Sam Cassell, Mario Elie were all out for long stretches. And the clinching game in Seattle, or for Seattle, I should say, featured some of the patented Rockets magic that had really helped them out for the past 2 years. We had talked about this Rockets team many, many times before, but they felt like they were about to get eliminated many times. They felt like they were just not going to be a title team and would some way, shape, or form make it there. We talked about the 95 team. By mid-season, they were just kind of like at 500, and then they get like a good run. There was just like wild shots and wild games and wild plays that made it, but this felt like the magic finally had run out. Seattle had blown a 20-point second-half lead and used a 9-0 run in overtime to hold on for the 114-107 victory and complete the sweep of the back-to-back championships. But Sean Kemp was very complimentary of Houston afterwards. He said they haven't won championships by giving up. They held their composure and fought back. It got a little scary at the end. Fortunately, we regained our composure in that overtime. And this is interesting, too, because in the past prior 2 seasons, I mentioned that Houston Magic, Houston had won 8 playoff games in which it faced elimination. 8 times. When they faced elimination, they won and staved off elimination, which is just crazy. But unfortunately, they could not do it a 9th time and unfortunately failed in their quest for the old 3 consecutive championships thing repeated.
So next we have not our final entry, but we have 2 more entries. Our more recent entry, the 2011 Los Angeles Lakers. And they, of course, won their back-to-back championships in 2009 and 10 against Orlando and Boston. And in terms of roster changes, not huge differences. They added Steve Blake, and they traded Sasha Vujacic in December. Otherwise, you pretty much ran it back. The results, another sweep. They were decimated by the Dallas Mavericks, and boy, was that a stomping too. That was that was just an incredible beatdown in that series where it felt like the Mavericks made like 80% of their 3-pointers. Although interestingly enough, there were 2 very tight games in that series. And game 1 was only by 2 points, and game 3 was by 6 points, but especially that game 4, that was a 122 to 86 beat down, and I think the lead was was close to 40 points at one point in that game.
Oh, it was. I think the Lakers, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure the Lakers had like 35 in the 4th, but it didn't. I mean, the Mavs were just like, Jason Kidd was just twirling the ball on his fingers, like, you know what I mean? Like nothing was happening. No, that series is nuts because Jason Kidd, I think, made 40 out of 41 threes. Peja Stojakovic made 30 out of 31. Jason Terry made all 45 of his threes. Like they just never missed. The Mavericks never missed an entire time, which is nuts because the Lakers were prided on their defense. I mean, with Kobe still being a pretty good defender at that time, Gasol being an okay defender at the time, Artesta or Metta World Peace at that point being a good, but yeah, just Lamar Odom, of course, being kind of the do everything defender and offensive player. But yeah, they just got beat down. They went down 0-3 in the series, couldn't recover. As you said, they closed them out with a 122-86 victory. The Mavericks made a playoff record tying 23s in that game. I'm sure that has been broken many times since then, but in 2011, 23s in the game was novel and ridiculous. But now Steph Curry does it in every game and nobody cares. But the Mavericks bench scored the same as because the whole Lakers roster, the Mavericks bench, had 86 points that game, it was just insane. It was just absolutely nuts. Lamar Odom and Andrew Bynum were also ejected for flagrant fouls on Dirk Nowitzki and JJ Barea. Of course, the Bynum one on Barea is probably the most famous. And the Lakers win over the Lakers was the largest margin of victory in a game that clinched a sweep in the playoffs. So it was just a remarkable, huge win for the Mavericks, I should say, on an end of an era for Phil Jackson as well, who was diagnosed with prostate cancer in March and announced his retirement as head coach after the playoffs. But unfortunately, there was the Knicks thing. So that was not the end of Phil Jackson, but the end of Phil Jackson's success, I should say, in the NBA, because the Lakers thing, or the Knicks thing was a thing. So
yes, worth noting that
Joakim Noah.
Worth noting that Jason Terry was 9 of 10 from 3 in that game, and Peja was 6 of 6. Jason Kidd actually
I said nobody missed.
Jason Kidd was actually only 1 of 5, and Deshaun Stevenson were only 1 of 5, but it didn't really matter because everyone else was amazing in that. In that series, I mean,
Peja was not even in the league. It was just like he showed up that game and just shot threes. So it's like, okay, here's Peja Stojakovic. I didn't even know Peja was on this team, but here you go. Like, I don't think he was on the team. Like, I think he just showed up and they're like, oh, he was just like sitting in the fourth row. They're like, hey, Peja, you want to get in here? He's like, all right, cool, let's do it. No, he was like amazing that entire playoff run.
Right.
For some reason, Peja Stojakovic. Yeah, it was just like, oh, wait, Peja's still in the league? Oh, Peja's great. And then he was gone again. He was just like,
that was the end.
Just an enigma. Yeah. Just a 1-year enigma of Peja Stojakovic.
Yeah. So. In retrospect, that Mavericks team was so fun. It didn't last. Obviously, they didn't last very long, but that was really, all those guys on that team had not won a championship, and that was like a really, that was a really fun team to follow into they set the Heat in those finals, but
beating the big three Heat. I mean, it was awesome after so many years. I mean, I sort of, because I was a huge Mavericks fan growing up, like I sort of took it a little bit, personally I thought it was great and awesome or whatever, but it was really, because I mean there was just like you said, there was a lot of guys hadn't won titles before. It was kind of a ragtag bunch, but like everybody sort of emerged. Like you saw Jason Kidd rework his game, you saw Peja Stojakovic just resurrect his career and become a guy. And I think what's also cool too is when you look at like the bench of like in terms of like the coaches and whatnot. Obviously you have Rick Carlisle being the head coach, but you have Dwayne Casey as an assistant coach, Terry Stotts as an assistant coach, you get Brad Davis as like the former Mavericks players, player development guy. You have Daryl Armstrong there. Like it's just really cool, a lot of the guys that ended up kind of emerging and breaking out from that as well. And then you have just a super deep two with Caron Butler, Sean Marion, and Tyson Chandler. It's just like, how'd they bring this team together? It's just like it's just a real fun deep team. They go like 17 or 18 deep with guys that are like okay, or at least playable or whatnot. So it's pretty cool in that sense. So I like that team a lot. So. Yeah.
And our final selection here, the 2014 Miami Heat, and they didn't make a lot of major roster changes. They waived Mike Miller in the offseason, which was something that upset LeBron James quite a bit. They signed Michael Beasley, and they acquired Tony Douglas in January. The other signee is they brought back Greg Oden, who had been out of the league for a few years. They brought him in as kind of a reclamation project. It was sort of a good emotional boost for the team, but on the court he didn't really play that much. He only played 23 games and 9.2 minutes per game. But outside of that, they was the kind of the same. Of course, LeBron, Wade, Bosh, Mario Chalmers, Ray Allen, Shane Battier, Birdman, Richard Lewis. I think Richard Lewis had played the year before, so he was he was coming from the second year. But basically similar roster. Udonis Haslem, James Jones, all those guys kind of. I think the thing with this team is there were a lot of guys like Wade only played 54 games, and there were a lot of guys who only played like small parts of the season. So even though it was the largely the same names, it was a lot of guys who were in and out.
Yeah, and like we said, like it had become kind of a veteran team, like, and that led to a lot of their success, is that they were grabbing, because you have three guys that were taking up a lot of the contracts. It would be veterans that just wanted to get one more title. They would kind of jump in. So you had guys like Richard Lewis, who was obviously still a good player, but those were the type of guys you were going to get, and it all worked. The prior 2 years, but in this year it was a little tough because they were all getting old, and as you said, Wade was starting to feel his age, and Bosh as well missed some games, and it just LeBron was still great and awesome, but he just couldn't do it enough, and he just couldn't do it by himself. But NBA Finals rematch here with San Antonio, which is pretty interesting as well, who they had beaten the prior year in one of the best series of all time. This is, of course, the Ray Allen game and all that sort of stuff. 12th Finals rematch, but only the 5th since the ABA-NBA merger in 1976. This time around, though, not a sweep. San Antonio instead won 4-1. So close, but not quite there. As you said, age had really caught up with the Heat, and it seemed like Wade and the Heat bench were really ineffective during large portions of the finals. Ray Allen had also slowed down too, and while he was still efficient overall, he had become pretty marginalized at this point and was almost just exclusively a spot up shooter, which was fine. But like, yeah, this is a guy who probably could have offered a little bit more, but at this point was just kind of like stand in the corner and shoot threes guy. So that kind of hurt. Also, the Spurs were just really goddamn good too. I think that probably plays a huge part in it. They won the final 3 games by an average of 19 points, and they outscored playoff opponents by 214 points in that entire season. That's a playoff record as well. The emergence of Kawhi Leonard as well was a huge deal. Yeah, so Leonard was 22 years old at this point. He becomes the youngest Finals MVP since Tim Duncan, ironically enough, in 1999, and he's the 4th youngest overall. Magic Johnson won it twice while younger, but I think that's a huge part. The emergence of Kawhi Leonard, combined with the Spurs playing a different brand of basketball than what they had what a lot of people had thought they were for a while too. This was kind of the beginning of the fast Spurs, the terms of them playing up and down basketball. Tony Parker being kind of the accelerator of things, Manu Ginobili being able to run up and down the court. This isn't your boring, quote unquote boring Spurs of the early 2000s. This is a run and gun, sort of the beautiful game Spurs, as many people call them. I think Kirk Goldsberry, who ended up working for them, ended up calling them that. And little did we know this would kind of become the emerging style, one of the emerging styles of the NBA, is a lot of what they were doing here. So this is like when Tim Duncan wouldn't even pass half court half the time because he didn't need to, because they would Leonard would steal it, pass it to Parker would pass it to Ginobili, and they just score. And it's like, I'm good. I'll just stand over here. It's cool. But no, they were obviously an awesome team and just completely blew away the competition, including the Heat, who, as you said, were slowing down. We're getting older, and it just kind of all worked pretty well. Heat coach Eric Spoelstra, after the win, said they played exquisite basketball in this series, and in particular the last 3 games. They are the better team. There was no other way to say it. They played great basketball, and we couldn't respond to it. And LeBron, after the game, said, we lost 1 finals, we won 2, and we lost another one. We'll take 50% in 4 years in a championship any day. Obviously, we want to win them all, but that's just the nature of the game. Not proud of the way we played in this series. So that was LeBron's quote after that. But yeah, they ran into a good Spurs team and unfortunately could not do it. So Pats could not make money off of yet another 3 consecutive championships thing. Yes. Repeated.
Right. Yeah, no, he did not do that. So, yeah, so obviously, we're at a point where the whole reason we're doing the show is because the Golden State Warriors have won 2 championships in a row, and now they have a chance to, in fact, go for a three-peat. Oh no!
We saved up. No, we have 2 more. We have 1 more to go. So you're good.
All right. Oh shoot. Okay. All right.
Yeah, we're good. We've only used 1. I used my 1 at the beginning. All right. We were good the entire time. I really thought. I told the line there with the 3 consecutive Pete's.
Sure.
on the right. Chicago Billboard, but I think we're good on that. So I think we're only at 2. So you can close out the show with 1 more if you really want to give it to him. Maybe we can close out the show and then just say it, and then just that's it. I don't know.
We'll see what happens. Maybe if we say it and then we shut down the show, nothing will happen. There will be no content.
Right.
All right.
If we want to see, I personally do not want to see him in my mirror. So it's up to you if you want that. I don't want to see it.
I mean, it's possible he may just haunt the show himself.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit before we worry about that. Let's talk a little bit about what we think the chances of the Warriors, in fact, accomplishing this goal.
Very good, given how they're playing. They are a good team. They are better than everybody else. They look like they are on fire right now, barring a major injury to Steph Curry and Kevin Durant where they collide and both of them are out for the season. I don't know, man. They look really good this year, and Houston falls back.
Yeah.
You obviously have some teams in the East, but it just feels like nobody is at their level right now.
The Raptors, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Kawhi,
it'd be fun to see Kawhi try to ruin another one of these. But yeah, I don't know, man. They look really good, and it's we talked about a lot of times where you have these teams, and one of the big reasons why is because they don't add to the roster. They get a little bit older. This team feels like they're just in their peak right now, and they keep adding new good players to the roster. So it ends up being their issue is they kind of have to cycle through bench guys, but it feels like every new collection of random bench guys are because now Jonas Jerebko is good. What the hell? Come on,
yeah.
They just find Jonas Jerebko, who I didn't even know was still around, and then he's just a good contributor. They get, Anderson Varejao off a trapped heap, and he's fine. He's good. And it's just
he kind of hurt them in those finals, but.
Oh, that's right. No, he sucked. Yeah, no, that's right. You're right. I forgot that he sucked.
But the other guy, obviously, they've gotten Sean Livingston, who people thought he was done, and he's been good for a long time. They've managed to get other guys. Even Nick Young was okay last year. Stuff like that. Yeah, and they've been able to sort of develop younger players. Kevon Looney,
Omri Caspi was one.
Yeah, Caspi. Yeah,
he was bad too, though.
He wasn't so good. No, but Damian Jones. But they got some younger guys in there who are contributing at least at some level. That'll help because they are Durant and Curry are 30, Clay and Green are 28, Iguodala's 35, and Livingston's 33. So, they definitely are kind of getting up there. The main 4 guys are still young enough where, I don't expect them to tire out anytime soon, but certainly possible. We know what's going to happen this season. Yeah, I think. I mean, they kind of slowed down last year, but so far we're about 10, 11 games in the season, they are a juggernaut, and that can just happen early. They could definitely tire out and slow down or get less interested or whatever. I just don't see like another team that's ready to, really knock them off. I mean, you could say the Celtics or the Sixers in maybe this year, but more likely in a couple years, those are likely to be the teams that could do it. Or maybe the Timberwolves eventually get it together, or one of the younger teams out west, the Nuggets or somebody. But yeah, I mean, it's right now it's looking like it could be. Dare I say it? Dare I say the word? Should I say it, Rich? Should I say
a 4-peat? Yeah, you're right. They could definitely win 4 in a row and get a 4-peat.
A 4-peat.
So I think.
A 4-peat. Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, 4-peats.
Oh no, you were talking about 3 in a row. Okay, I see.
3 in a row. It could be a 3-peat.
Yes, it could. Yeah, it's. I'm curious. I actually have not followed if like they answered any questions or if any of their branding says anything about that. I think like now you don't want to necessarily do that as much because it feels kind of weird. But I'm sure they get asked it. But I have to see if like Clay has said anything about the 3 in a row or whatnot, and see if it's been in quotes. I know it's been used in headlines and stuff, but I don't know if wonder if they've personally used it at all or even mentioned it. So it'll be fun to check out. But no, they look really good. So it'll be funny to see how it goes throughout the playoffs. But yeah, they look like interested again, and there was like times last year where they weren't interested, but then the playoffs came and then they were interested again, and
sure.
It's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Other than the Houston series felt like the first time that they were really challenged. And of course, barring a Chris Paul injury, they may have not been knocked off or whatever. But yeah, it's just it looks like there's just nobody, and they obviously don't have to deal with LeBron in the East anymore. I guess they have to kind of deal with LeBron in the West, but
maybe.
I mean, I don't think that's a thing, really.
Yeah,
like I mean, maybe in the first round they'll have to deal with LeBron in the West,
but, right. But yeah, are they worried about that? And not, I don't think as much anymore. So yeah.
No, I think they moved on from that. So yeah, this is definitely. I mean, it's going to be. It feels like it. It really does. It feels like the first time since 2002 that we're going to see one of these. So we'll see how the season goes.
See how it goes. All right. Well, thanks everyone for checking us out. Looks like no consequences for the fact that we said the word 3 times. So
not yet. I'm about to go take a shower, so I will report back.
Okay.
If it appears in my mirror.
Do a special bonus episode. But yes,
from the shower. Yeah, I will. I'll do that. So I'm gonna grab my phone. I'm gonna grab my phone, get in the shower, and do that.
Sounds pretty hot, Rich.
I'll be live streaming that. Yeah, it will definitely be hot. I can assure you that.
I appreciate that.
I'll live stream it.
All right. So all right. We'll look forward to that possibility. Everyone else can find us on iTunes or Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Leave us a rating and review. It helps people find the show and makes us feel good about ourselves. Find us on Twitter and Facebook at Over and Back NBA. So you can leave feedback there. If Pat Riley haunts your dreams, you can let us know about that as well. And find us at the Step Back at Fansided /NBA. We'll get you there. So check that out, and thanks for listening. We're back again soon.
There has to be an intervention. I'm going to be the intervener.
Oh no, Pat Riley!
Not the intervener. I'm going to be the intervener.
No!
There has to be an intervention here, okay? And that's real. That's real. You had a bad year this year. And so he's got to come back strong next year, and I'm going to try to help him as much as I can. I'm going to try to help the both of them come together so we can keep him on the court.